Greetings, everyone. I'm Cilgin, a city planner. I'm currently an academic member in the Department of Urban and Regional Planning at Mimar Sinan Fine Arts University in Turkey. Today, I will be presenting a brief overview of the findings from my study, which I took forward upon our joint research conducted in 2021. It is with great excitement that I have the opportunity to present the results of our study at such a prestigious conference, coinciding with the 20th anniversary of the UNESCO Convention on Cultural Heritage. I would like to express my gratitude to the scientific committee and organizing team for accepting my submission and granting me this opportunity. Considering the transformative impact of migration, particularly in terms of cultural interactions and the preservation of common heritage, Kırklareli, which is a city located in East Thrace, stands out as a region that embodies this phenomenon. Throughout history, Kırklareli, formerly known as Forty Church, has been home to numerous ancient settlements due to its strategic location. Today, with a population of around 370,000 people, and it serves as a center for agriculture, livestock, industry, and services, and has also strong rural areas and agricultural production. Kırklareli ranks among the top 20 in terms of socio-economic development nationwide. It holds significance as an important city with a rich historical background. This research aims to explore the cultural implications of historical migration movements in Kırklareli and shed light on the significance of its diverse cultural identity. To accomplish this, a comprehensive approach was adopted, encompassing an extensive literature review, archival research, field studies, and interviews with the local historians. This holistic perspective allowed for an examination of Kırklareli's migration history and intangible cultural heritage values. Throughout this presentation, I will provide illustrative examples to support our findings about the effects of the migration mobility on intangible cultural heritage. The process of migration involving the displacement of individuals also encompasses a cultural displacement. One of the most significant reflections of migration in terms of its consequences is the emergence of cultural interaction resulting from encounters between migrants and settled groups. This interaction influences the transformation of identity processes and facilitates the reproduction of cultural identity. Cultural heritage encompasses the witnessing and transmission of this entire process to the present. The fundamental characteristic of intangible cultural heritage is its inherent mobility and transformation, as it exists not only in the carriers and recreators, but also in the form of shape rather than meaning that undergoes transformation. Intangible cultural heritage values define not only the existence within the geography where they coexist, but also encompass a broader existence that is part of the lives in the places that migrate to. As stated in the Faro Convention, cultural heritage not only contributes to maintaining democratic and cultural diversity, but also supports the development of a stable society through the establishment of a shared heritage understanding. These representations witnessed throughout Eastern Thrace and Kırklareli address the broad geography of the cultural heritage carried by all ethnic communities. Particularly in rural areas, the distinct traditions upheld by different ethnic groups provide significant examples of regional importance in terms of their sense of belonging, identity, and heritage values. The varying details of these values, which continue to be represented, highlight the diverse ethnic identity structures of the region. Migration, mobility, and diversification of cultural identities in Eastern Thrace and Kırklareli. Eastern Thrace has hosted various ethnic and religious groups in different periods and has been a bridge between the cultures and the several communities. Kırklareli, the city at the heart of the region, which made many empires from Greeks to the Byzantines, a part of its history and its geography, has a unique social morphology formed by the ethnic identities diversified by Armenians, Jews, Bulgarians, Greeks, Gajals, Tatars, Gagauz, Pomaks, Albanians, Yörüks, Coptic Gypsies, Bosnians, and their cultural reflections, although not all of them exist today. Therefore, Kırklareli and its districts and villages present eligible spatial, sociological, and cultural elements with their establishment stories specific to migration and settlement policies that allow to correlate between the past and the future. The components of cultural heritage created by this accumulation in Kırklareli, including auditory, visual, and behavioral expressions, play a vital role in preserving the cultural identities of different groups while contributing to the formation of a shared sense of community belonging. Cross-border dialogues established with the places left behind thus create an extensive cultural geography. In this sense, cultural expressions are in interaction with a wide geography while being shaped by the experience of the local. The diversity of ethnic identities in the region is also reflected in the forms of local life and modes of production, enriching the heritage values. We can bring together the lives, cultural activities, seasonal celebrations, dance, music, folk songs, rhymes, handicrafts, clothing styles, and food and drink habits of those who resident in the districts, towns, and villages of Kırklareli under four main categories: folk language and literature, traditions, customs and beliefs, folk music and dances, material culture. The ethnic structure of Eastern Thrace has been shaped predominantly by migrations that occurred during the late period of the Ottoman Empire. Like in other parts of the Thrace, a significant portion of the population in Kırklareli consists of Balkan immigrants. For a long time, the local population has identified themselves as either indigenous or muhajir from Greece, Bulgaria, Yugoslavia, Romania, Macedonia, etc., including various ethnic groups such as Yörük, Tatar, Pomak, Bosniak, Romani, and others. However, with changing dynamics in recent years, these identifiers have become less prominent and regional dialects have started to exhibit more standardized features and approach to normative language, particularly from the early years of the Republic. From the perspective of folk language, it's observed that the words associated with the Kırklareli exhibit a commonality in specific themes closely related to the geography. The focus is often on the region's significant sources of livelihood, reflecting the richness of flora and fauna through place specific names given the plants and animals. There is a notable emphasis on distinct folk music and dances, cuisine culture, everyday life practices, and various rituals. From the perspective of folk literature, there are examples based on the oral tradition that are anonymous in nature. These examples manifest as proverbs, idioms, riddles, lullabies, rhymes, tongue twisters, and folk songs. Works expressed in the folk language encompass universal themes such as love, exile, migration, pain, death, and heroism. Tradition and customs encompass the cultural elements, habits, knowledge, manners, and behaviors that are passed down from generation to generation in a society. Beliefs, on the other hand, shape cultural norms that hold significant positions in social life and influence the social structure. In Kırklareli, these highlight the visibility of culture, while those hidden in collective memory can be discerned through traces of everyday life in the past. In this context, this section lists rituals, celebrations, festivals, and various traditions that continue to exist today, including those recognized on UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage list. It is known that there are many traditions, customs, and ritual practices that have been preserved, abandoned, or changed from the past to the present. While a significant portion of these traditions is common throughout Kırklareli, they can vary, especially among villages. All this diversity is related to the region's history of migration. I would like to provide two examples, one specific to Kırklareli and the other related to its history of migration. Companionship in hereafter, defined in anthropology dictionary as the friendship relationship established among elderly women based on belief in hereafter, is mostly maintained among unmarried young girls in Thrace. According to the general rule, it is established between two young girls who love each other and enjoy being together in the region. This bond can be formed during early childhood. This is as important as biological siblings that here is a certain ceremony associated with being companionship. It is possible to say that companionship in hereafter, which can be practiced not only among women but also among men, is preserved as a distinct cultural element in the Thrace region. The second one, Bocuk night rituals, which coincide with the coldest days of winter in January in Kırklareli folk culture, are remembered by those over 60 years old. It's a custom brought by immigrants from the Balkans. The people knew that it was not a Turkish tradition, but they said that they performed Bocuk night to adhere to the traditions of people belonging to other religions. Until 40 years ago, this tradition was widely practiced in villages and towns. Although it has undergone some changes nowadays, it's continued and remains in the memory of the young generation. On these nights, people gather in homes, and neighbors with their faces covered in flour and stove ash and wearing white sheets tap on the window of houses in the dark, warning those who look out the window and say, Bocuk is coming, because it's believed that Bocuk wanders in white clothing and human form. That is why it's referred to as Halloween in Thrace. Apart from these two examples, it is also possible to mention the diverse rituals and practices in Kırklareli, such as the Alevi Bektashi ritual of Semah, which was inscribed in the UNESCO list of Intangible Cultural Heritage in 2010. The traditional rain prayer rituals that are performed annually in April, May, and June, folk medicine practices, and funeral customs. We can talk about two important celebrations under these headings: Nevroz and Hıdrellez. Nevroz is celebrated in Kırklareli on March 22. It is the herald of spring and the symbol of peace, tranquility, and brotherhood. If the celebrations take place in the fields, food is prepared and colored eggs, pastries, and sweets are enjoyed. Various activities are carried out during the celebrations. Although some beliefs and practices related to Nevroz have diminished over time, it is noted that there are customs that continue in many places, including Kırklareli. And Hıdrellez, a spring celebration marking the awakening of nature and the arrival of spring, has been inscribed on the representative list of the Intangible Cultural Heritage of Humanity in Turkey and North Macedonia partnership. The aim is to increase awareness of the values that have survived to the present day and to bring people from different social cultural backgrounds of the two countries together. The celebration areas in Kırklareli were called Hıdırlık, where tents were set up and near the streams close to the city center and in villages. Also, they were held in picnic areas with large participation. However, in some villages, these traditions have greatly diminished or been completely forgotten today. Nevertheless, various customs still stand out in the villages. Other festivals and celebrations are still observed in Kırklareli include Kakava, a Romani cultural festival known as Hıdrellez of Thrace, and international folk dance festivals held in the city with participants from various cultures, mostly from Balkan countries, and some village festivals. In Thrace, folk music has enriched itself with the cultures brought by migration, incorporating new meanings into its anonymity and reaching its current formal structure. Folk dances have been shaped by various qualities, ranging from daily life practices to the transmission of stories from generation to generation and the reflection of emotions in important events, reflecting the region's unique living habits and diverse climates. Additionally, the music that determines the rhythm of the performed dance and the complementary costumes in folk dances provide important insights into the social structure of the region. Kırklareli region, like the rest of Thrace, has its folk dances shaped by a combination of the dances brought by immigrants who migrated from the Balkans and the local dance traditions. The people who came from the Balkans and their descendants have strongly preserved these dances, not allowing any significant change in their authentic structure. The ways in which instruments are played in folk dances, like the variation in dance styles across regions, are closely related to the lifestyle and culture of the respective community. Similarly, folk dance costumes carry the elements of diversity that constitute the cultural identity of the society. However, and unfortunately, it can be observed that eclectic approaches have developed in the music and costumes of Kırklareli dances. While the influence of Romani music can be felt in the music, the customs may also take on different forms than the local characteristic. Folk dances, which have significant heritage value, particularly carry the cultural memory based on the hybridity of the region. The first of the material cultural objects is clothing and traditional costumes, which are materials diversified throughout the rural areas due to the ethnic structure associated with the migration. The second is the regional handicrafts and crafts. The third is the regional cuisine culture, which plays a role in preserving the identities of ethnic groups and is particularly distinct and interactive in rural areas. The Intangible Cultural Heritage Convention emphasizes the need to create conditions that encourage artisans to continue their production, not just as a representation of past practices, but also for the preservation of traditional crafts and techniques. Traditional clothing and costumes, which constitute an important part of all cultures, are no longer preferred in daily life within certain patterns. However, they are considered as heritage values that promote craft production as part of various rituals. Therefore, as an expression of social and cultural character, this component of material culture plays an important role in the preservation of historical and cultural heritage. The details contained in the regional costumes of Kırklareli within its rich cultural structure can be observed particularly in the costumes of men and women in folk dances. In this sense, it can be said that the regional clothing and costumes are in interaction with other components of intangible cultural heritage values. The cuisine culture, which encompasses not only elements related to food but also the society's habits, lifestyle, traditions, and customs, is an important intangible cultural heritage value in Kırklareli, where the social structure has been shaped by migrations. It serves as both a way to preserve cultural identity and the means of interaction among communities. The cuisine culture of Kırklareli has been shaped by the variety of food grown in the region, as well as the eating habits and beliefs of the communities living in the city and those who migrated over the course of history. The foundation of the regional cuisine lies in agricultural products, both large and small livestock, farming, and seafood. Handicrafts and crafts offer a unique body of knowledge that was once an integral part of the region's economic and social life. These products are created using traditional methods, tools, and techniques with a focus of functionality, reflecting the culture of the local community, the symbolic traces of their cultural heritage, and the values embraced by the artisans. In Kırklareli, there are several examples of handicrafts and crafts that were prevalent until the 20th century but have largely disappeared today due to changing needs and expectations. However, they still hold significance as part of the cultural heritage. For a conclusion, The fundamental element that integrates Kırklareli with its regional context within the framework of the thematic areas defined by UNESCO's convention is its collective memory that keeps it alive. The heritage values, which play a significant role in the preservation of cultures, present the ethnic diversity that constitutes the city's identity as its most important cultural wealth. While these values, as the guardians of collective memory, possess a vibrant and colorful structure, the acceptance of new generations that may disrupt their continuity also renders them fragile. Social practices can be seen as public platforms where the local people engage in sharing, particularly in addition to the limited number of values that have continuity in present day. The past of Kırklareli holds significant values that are an integral part of its history and can be sustained in the future. On the other hand, the activities related to the stages of private life, which define a large-scale social interaction, also carry representations of the worldview, history, and memory of the community to which they belong. Each of these activities represents a significant reflection of geographical mobility in various aspects. The heritage values shaped by migration from the nearby regions enable a large part of the community to perceive themselves as part of a wider region and community beyond the city. Therefore, these values contribute to social cohesion by promoting a sense of identity, place, and responsibility. Thus, intangible cultural heritage preserves its vitality by transmitting knowledge about all the traditions that have developed at the core of communities from generation to generation and to other communities. Therefore, the first step that can be taken to ensure continuity is to organize the knowledge pool of cultural heritage memory through oral and documentary sharing and to achieve broad participation in this organization. It is hoped that such efforts and similar initiatives will be recognized as valuable initial steps that can contribute to this organization. Thanks for your attention.